Good morning, children. Sairam. Today we'll start with the third chapter of your course book, Earthquake in Assam. This lesson will be taken in two parts. Let us start with the first part. Before we start, let me tell you, you have to be ready with a pen and paper. I will be giving you some of the meanings while teaching, and some of the meanings will be there on the page of your textbook. Please jot it down. Sometimes nature shows its fury in the form of floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, and pandemics like coronavirus as we are experiencing now. We cannot stop natural disasters, but we can arm ourselves with knowledge, and it is possible for man to protect not only himself but others as well against these calamities. Let's listen to the story by Ruskin Bond. Ruskin Bond was born in 1934. He is an Indian author of British descent. He started writing at the age of 17. He wrote over 500 short stories and articles. The Indian Council for Child Education has recognized his role in the growth of children's literature in India. Here is the photo of Ruskin Bond, the great Indian author. He received many awards like Padma Bhushan, Padma Shri, Sahitya Akademi Award, and Lifetime Achievement Award. Before I start, let me give you a brief about the characters in this story. The main character is the author's grandfather. This story talks about the famous earthquake of Assam and Bengal, which took place on 12th June 1897. The author Ruskin Bond wasn't born then, but the story talks about his father and grandfather. His grandfather used to write all events for posterity, and Ruskin picked up this story from one of his grandfather's book. If ever there's a calamity, grandmother used to say, it will find grandfather in his bath. Grandfather loved his bath, which he took in a large round aluminium tub, and sometimes spent as long as an hour in it, wallowing as he called it, and splashing around like a boy. Okay, now let's understand what is given in this paragraph. Here, the author has given a brief description about his grandfather. He loved bathing in that tub. He used to take almost an hour for bathing. While bathing, he would splash the water like a child. That is, he would love to wallow. So wallowing meaning is rolling about. What does this reveal about grandfather's personality? That he was very childlike. He was in his bath during the earthquake that convulsed Bengal and Assam on 12th June 1897. It was so severe that even today the region of the great Brahmaputra river basin hasn't settled down. Not long ago, it was reported that the entire Shillong plateau had moved an appreciable distance away from the Brahmaputra towards the Bay of Bengal. According to the Geological Survey of India, this shift has been taking place gradually over the past 90 years. In this paragraph, the author describes the severity of the earthquake that took place then, that is 12th June 1897, almost 120 years ago. Even today, some regions of the Brahmaputra river basin has not settled. That is, the impact was so huge that the basin is not able to settle down. It has shifted from its place. Here, convulsed means shook violently. Had grandfather been alive, he would have added one more clipping to his scrapbook on the earthquake. The clipping goes in anyway, because the scrapbook is now with the children. More than newspaper accounts of the disaster, it was grandfather's own letters and memoirs that made the earthquake seem recent and vivid. For he, along with grandmother and two of their children, one of them, my father, was living in Shillong, a picturesque little hill station in Assam, when the earth shook and the mountains heaved. Now, in this paragraph, the author is trying to tell us about another characteristic of his grandfather, and that is his writing skills. In fact, after reading grandfather's memoirs, the author could visualize the event of the past 120 years as if it had happened only recently. In other words, the author's grandfather was also a great writer, though his works may not be as renowned as that of the author. It also tells us that the story is based in Shillong, which was a hill station in Assam then. Today, Shillong is the capital of the state of Meghalaya. Here, memoirs means written records. Then picturesque means charming hill station in Assam. Then heaved means the mountains moved. Heaving is moving. As I have mentioned, grandfather was in his bath, splashing about, and did not hear the first rumbling. But grandmother was in the garden, hanging out or taking in the washing. She could never remember which, when suddenly the animals began making a hideous noise, a sure intimation of a natural disaster. For animals sense the approach of an earthquake much more quickly than humans. In this paragraph, the author is trying to set the stage for the coming of the earthquake. What are the initial feelings? changes in the surroundings, change in the atmosphere. It's almost a tense situation. Hideous. Hideous means unpleasant. Here, hideous noise means unpleasant noise. Then, intimation. Intimation here means hint. So, it gave the hint of a natural disaster. The crows all took wing, wheeling wildly overhead and cawing loudly. The chickens flapped in circles as if they were being chased. Two dogs sitting in the veranda suddenly jumped up and ran out with their tails between their legs. Within half a minute of her noticing the noise made by the animals, grandmother heard a rattling, rumbling noise like the approach of a train. The noise increased for about a minute, and then there was the first trembling of the ground. The animals by this time seemed to have gone mad. Treetops lashed backwards and forwards. Doors banged and windows shook, and grandmother swore later that the house actually swayed in front of her. She had difficulty in standing straight, though this could have been due to the trembling of her knees than to the trembling of the ground. What happens when the earthquake strikes? Crows, birds running here and there and cawing, dogs trying to find a safe place to hide, doors swaying and banging. The noise, the rumblings getting bigger. Grandma is not able to stand steady. She feels the whole earth is swaying. It's a terrifying atmosphere. All living beings are scared. Will they survive or not? That is the question going on in their minds. Just visualize the scene based on the picture shown in the book. You can see Grandma not knowing what to do. Many birds in the sky, dogs running, chickens running. It's a good imaginary representation of the scenario. The first shock lasted for about a minute and a half. I was in my tub having a bath. Grandfather wrote for posterity, which for the first time in the last 2 months I had taken in the afternoon instead of in the morning. My wife and children and the ayah were downstairs. Then the shock came, accompanied by a loud rumbling sound under the earth and a quaking which increased in intensity every second. It was like putting many shells in a basket and shaking them up with a rapid shifting motion from side to side. In this paragraph, we have more vivid description of the earthquake. You can see grandfather was in his bathtub as usual, and this time it was in the afternoon. Else normally he would take bath in the morning. The family members, including grandma, their 2 kids, and the ayah were downstairs. The earthquake happened for 90 seconds, which means it continued for a long time. Posterity means for future generation. Here the writer has used the word ayah, which gives an Indianness to his writing. At first, I did not realize what it was that caused my tub to sway about and the water to splash. I rose up and found the earth heaving, while the washstand, basin, sewer, cups, and glasses danced and rocked about in the most hideous fashion. I rushed to the inner door to open it and search for my wife and children, but could not move the draughted door as boxes, furniture, and plaster had come up against it. The back door was the only way of escape. I managed to burst it open and, thank God, was able to get out. Sections of the thatched roof had slithered down on the four sides like a pack of cards and blocked all the exits and entrances. Grandfather came out of the tub to find the front door locked. Because of all the rumblings as boxes, furniture, plaster all got rattled and piled up against the door. So he had to exit from the rear or the back door. It was as if all exits have been blocked and there was little chance of survival. The situation had become grave, silent, and tension all around. Here in this paragraph, we have two phrases: hideous fashion, that is unpleasant fashion, and then we have slithered down, which means slide down. The thatched roof is compared to the pack of cards. As the pack of cards slide down, the thatched roof became so light that it slithered down. Draughted. This word is used to express annoyance. He was angry that the door could not move. Then there is a word sewer. Sewer is drainage system. With this we come to the end of today's session. We'll complete the story in the next video. At the end of the video you will get a link. You have to click on the link and submit your answers. Thank you. Take care.